My name is Avery Collins, and for the last 15 years, I wasn't just part of Collins & Company Capital, I was Collins & Company Capital. From the outside, our firm looked like a polished powerhouse. We sat in the heart of uptown Charlotte, North Carolina, on the top floors of a sleek glass tower that bore our name in steel letters. People whispered about how quickly we scaled, how precisely we executed, how much influence we held in private equity circles. But behind every calculated deal, every merger that got national press, was me. Not just the daughter of Richard Collins. I was the strategist, the fixer, the one who knew how to pull a crumbling deal back from the edge at the 11th hour. I joined the firm when I was 19, still in business school. While my peers were out tailgating and going on spring break, I was attending pitch meetings, poring over risk models, and learning to dissect balance sheets in my sleep. I never expected to be handed anything. I was prepared to build everything, and I did. Through every downturn, every volatile market shift, I was the one who made our strategy resilient. When the 2018 recession nearly decimated our holdings in commercial real estate, I pivoted us into tech and infrastructure. When our capital pipeline thinned, I cultivated our first round of global partners. And through it all, my father always said the same thing. "You're the future of this firm, Avery. I couldn't have done this without you." That sentence, God, I carried it like armor, like truth, until the day he called. It was a Thursday, late afternoon. I had just walked out of a meeting with a logistics conglomerate that was on the verge of partnering with us in a $400 million expansion. The sun was low, casting golden stripes across the floor of my corner office. I was tired, but satisfied. Then my phone buzzed. Dad. No small talk, no "how was your day?" Just one sentence. "Avery, I gave everything to your brother. You're out." I thought I misheard him. I remember staring at the phone, then slowly sitting down. "You... what?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "I'm passing the reins to Chase. You've done an amazing job, but it's time for the next chapter. Chase has a fresh perspective. The board agrees." Fresh perspective. That's what he called handing an empire to someone who had never worked a full week in his life. Chase, the same brother who once borrowed $500,000 from our family account to impress a girl he met in Ibiza. The same brother who treated networking events like open bars and couldn't tell a stock option from a sandwich order. I clutched my phone, the plastic case digging into my palm. My father's tone was calm, practiced, like he was announcing a corporate rebrand, not gutting my entire career with a single breath. "Dad, I've led every major initiative for the last decade. I built our expansion strategy. I stabilized our real estate portfolio. I negotiated our 5 largest deals." "I know," he said. "You've been incredible." "And that's why you're replacing me?" "It's not a replacement," he said. "It's evolution. The firm needs to evolve." I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't give him the fight he expected. I just said, "Thanks for letting me know," and hung up. Then I sat in my office, staring at the skyline I had helped this company conquer. I sat there for an hour, maybe longer. The golden light faded. My coffee went cold. The city, once alive and buzzing with possibility, now felt hollow. My chest didn't burn from heartbreak. It burned with fury. He thought I would crumble. He thought I would cry quietly, maybe take some time off. He thought I would be grateful for the memories. He forgot who I was. He forgot who helped him build this empire from the ground up. And more importantly, he forgot that I knew everything. That night, I opened the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out a black leather moleskin notebook. Not digital, not traceable, just pen and paper. In it were records I had kept for years. Backdoor deals, cash flow anomalies, personal notes about investor behavior, potential regulatory risks, things my father assumed were long buried. He should have known better. I went home to the house I never had time to decorate, poured a glass of whiskey I normally would have skipped, and stared at the notebook. The pages didn't hold vengeance. They held leverage. I flipped through it slowly. Page after page reminded me of how much I'd sacrificed. The late nights, the weekends, the relationships I never built, the family I never started. the identity I gave up to become the daughter who made the firm indestructible. And now I was supposed to fade into the background? No, absolutely not. As I sat in the dim kitchen light, the ice melting in my glass, a name surfaced in my mind: Jordan Whitmore. He was my father's closest advisor back in the early days, before we had our first seven-figure client. He helped him land that initial funding round when Collins & Company was just an idea scribbled on a cocktail napkin. Jordan had always believed in me, said I had more edge than half the board combined. We hadn't talked much since he retired, but I still had his number. I texted him, "Jordan, I need to talk. It's about my father and Chase." His reply came faster than I expected. "Winston Club, 9 p.m., booth 17. I didn't bother changing. I didn't put on makeup. I showed up in the same blazer I wore to that morning's meeting. The Winston Club was old Charlotte, dark oak walls, gold chandeliers, the scent of aged whiskey and expensive politics. Jordan was already there sipping something neat. "You look calm," he said as I slid into the booth. "I'm not. I'm calculated." He gave a slow smile. "That's the Avery I remember." I told him everything. The call, the handoff to Chase, the lies, the restructuring already happening behind my back. He didn't interrupt, just listened like he always had, like every word was an asset to be evaluated. When I finished, he leaned back and asked the question I'd been waiting for. "What do you want from me?" I didn't hesitate. I want to build something better, and I want to make sure they realize exactly what they lost. Jordan smiled. "Your father always said you had my ruthlessness." He underestimated it. From that moment, everything changed. My grief wasn't grief anymore. It was strategy. It was momentum. He thought he took everything from me. But he forgot. I built the damn thing, and I knew exactly how to take it all apart. The morning after the call, the world didn't look any different. Birds still chirped outside my window. Traffic still backed up on East Trade Street. The skyline of Charlotte still stretched across the horizon, full of towers I helped bring investors to. But for me, everything had changed. I opened my eyes in a house that barely felt lived in. My king-sized bed was cold on both sides. The minimalist bedroom, all white walls and chrome fixtures, looked more like a hotel suite than a home. I had spent more nights in the office than I ever had here. I sat up slowly, my body heavier than it had ever felt. My hand reached instinctively for my phone, then stopped midair. There would be no messages, no emails, not anymore. He made sure of that. I walked barefoot to the kitchen, poured a cup of coffee, took one sip and left it untouched on the marble counter. I didn't taste anything anyway. Instead, I grabbed the one thing I knew still held weight, the black leather notebook. Every company has a hidden vault. Ours just happened to be mobile, handwritten. Inside it, I had notes on over a decade of internal operations, backdoor funding structures, high-risk investments my father had buried deep inside offshore accounts, names of partners we technically no longer worked with, but still got holiday cards from. And now? That notebook was my sword. I slid it into my tote bag, grabbed a hoodie, tied my hair into a messy knot, and left the house. I didn't go to the office. I didn't go to brunch. I drove to a storage unit, not the sleek, climate-controlled kind you see in real estate brochures. This one was on the south side of Charlotte, tucked between a tire warehouse and a closed-down bowling alley. Unit 117. Inside were 14 labeled boxes, packed over the years during office renovations and audits no one ever followed through on. Boxes filled with old contracts, USB drives, original deal drafts, signed NDAs that had expired, and documents my father thought he had handled. And he should have known I never threw anything away. I crouched beside the nearest box, pulled out a file labeled Southeast Urban Renewal, Confidential, and began flipping through it. There it was, my name on every risk report, my analysis on tax incentives, my projections on asset appreciation. And yet, somehow, Chase's name was the only one that showed up in the final press release. The revisionist history had already begun, but they didn't know I still had the receipts. The next few days blurred into each other. I avoided the downtown core like it was radioactive. The Collins and Company building towered above everything, proud and polished. I knew that if I stepped within 50 feet of it, my pride would detonate. Instead, I started calling people. Quietly. Not to gossip, to observe. I asked questions like, "How's morale?" or "Have the weekly reports changed?" Most of the answers were short, hesitant, coded, but I knew how to read tone. I knew when someone was saying everything's fine, but really meant something's wrong. Then came the brunch invitation, from my father. "Just us," he said over the phone. "You, me, and Chase. Nothing formal." The nerve. I almost said no, but then I realized I wanted to see them. I needed to. So I said yes. We met at Langdon's, my father's favorite restaurant. It screamed legacy wealth. Polished brass chandeliers, white linen napkins folded into swans, waitstaff that remembered your drink order from 2016. I arrived 7 minutes late. On purpose. They were already seated. Chase wore a navy blazer, no tie, hair slicked back like he'd just Googled CEO look that morning. My father looked the same as always. Polished, calm, unreadable. "Avery," he said, smiling like nothing had happened. "You look tired." "That happens," I said coolly, "when your life gets rewritten without your permission." Silence. Chase sipped his mimosa. My father cleared his throat. "I know this is a difficult transition." "It's not a transition," I cut in. "It's an execution." He held his hands up. "We want you involved, just not in the same capacity." What capacity would that be? Decorative figurehead? Strategy puppet? Or maybe press collateral to make Chase look like less of a disaster? Chase laughed, light and smug. "You're being dramatic." "No, Chase. Dramatic would be me uploading my father's offshore deals to the SEC right now." He froze. My father's jaw tensed. "You wouldn't," I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Try me." I stood up, napkin still folded on my lap, untouched brunch, silent room. "Next time you want to strip a woman of her life's work," I said, "don't invite her to Eggs Benedict after." I walked out before either of them could say a word. Back at home, I sat in silence. The rage wasn't boiling anymore. It had simmered into something sharper, more focused. This wasn't about getting revenge anymore. It was about taking control of the narrative. And that's when I made the call that would change everything. Samantha Reyes had been my mentor since I was 24. She was head of risk and compliance, feared by regulators and investors alike. The woman could smell a loophole from 5 miles away and close it before anyone else even saw it. "Samantha," I said when she picked up, "I'm starting something new. Are you in?" Her answer was immediate. "Where do I sign?" And just like that, the first domino tipped. I drafted a preliminary org chart that night, not a typical firm. Not a bloated empire full of legacy hires and corporate dinosaurs. This would be sharp, agile, lean. No one gets in because of their last name. No one stays unless they deliver. I started reaching out to former teammates, the quiet ones, the analysts who worked late nights and never took credit, the advisors who had followed me blindly into impossible deals because they trusted my instincts. I didn't pitch, I invited. And most of them said yes before I even finished the sentence. Meanwhile, Chase was busy playing visionary. The headlines started surfacing. Collins and Company was pushing a tech acquisition on the West Coast, a company I had once reviewed and flagged as unstable. Of course, Chase didn't know that. He was too busy quoting TED Talks and misusing the word synergy. That night, I met Jordan again at a rooftop bar overlooking downtown Charlotte. He handed me a whiskey. "They're moving fast," he said. "Chase is greenlighting a $75 million deal with Veritech." I blinked. That company's cash flow is a disaster. They barely survived their last funding round. "He doesn't know that," Jordan said, "because you're not there to tell him." He took a sip, then added, "But you knew this was coming, didn't you?" I didn't respond. I just pulled out my phone and sent a message to a name I hadn't contacted in years. Natalie Herrera, co-founder of Veritech, former classmate, skeptic of egotistical men. 3 days later, Veritech announced an exclusive merger with my new firm, not Collins & Co. And the best part? Chase found out through the Wall Street Journal. My phone rang within an hour of the article dropping. "Dad." I let it ring 4 times before picking up. "Avery," he said, "did you have something to do with the Verita merger?" I tilted my head, smirking at my reflection in the kitchen window. "I don't work for Collins & Company anymore, remember?" He paused. "This isn't a game." "No," I said softly. "It's a correction." And I hung up. Let the fire rise. The war had begun, but no one saw the flames yet, because I had started it quietly, from the inside. And when it burned, it would burn all the way to the foundation. They say revenge is loud, but that's where most people get it wrong. The most effective revenge is silent, composed of spreadsheets, signatures, and softly shut doors. No fireworks, just echoes. My war didn't start with a declaration. It started with a list, 23 names, written in black ink on the back page of my notebook. Not the executives with inflated titles or the loudmouths who bragged in boardrooms. No, these were the real operators, the quiet brilliance that kept Collins & Company running while Chase played dress-up in a corner office. Tyler Grant, strategic M&A, Rachel Lynn, senior financial analyst, Malik Thompson, logistics lead, Kate Willis, director of communications, people who didn't care about the name on the building. People who had followed me into 3 a.m. meetings, last-minute market pivots, and brutal Q4s. People who were loyal, not to the firm, to me. The first calls were soft touches. I didn't ask for loyalty. I asked about their lives. "Tyler, how's your wife doing with the new baby?" "Rachel, you still running those weekend finance boot camps?" Small, personal. Then came the pitch. Not even a pitch, really. More like a door, cracked open. "I'm building something clean, agile. You'll actually have input. You won't get left out of meetings just because you're not family." As most of them said yes before I could even finish the second sentence. Tyler's voice cracked when he said, "I've been waiting for this call." By the end of week 1, I had 8 confirmations. By week 2, I had 15. And not a single word leaked back to Collins & Co. Because the quiet ones, they knew how to keep secrets. While my team grew in the shadows, Chase made noise. Too much noise. He launched a flashy press campaign, the new era of Collins & Co. Sleek billboards downtown, paid ads on LinkedIn, puff pieces in finance blogs quoting him on visionary transformation and agile capital flow. The irony? He didn't even know what agile capital flow meant. But hey, he looked great in the photos, hair slicked, Rolex-centered, jaw clenched like he was chewing on strategy. And while he played CEO, the foundation beneath him was quietly crumbling. He just didn't know it yet. Jordan and I met every few nights in quiet corners of the city. Old jazz clubs, hotel lounges, never the same place twice. He brought the investor intelligence. I brought the inside intel. "We're moving fast," he told me over a glass of rye at a rooftop bar. "I need faster," I said. "Collins & Company just approved a $75 million acquisition of Verita Tech," he said. I stopped cold. "They're going through with that deal?" He nodded. "Chase is calling it a transformational leap." I laughed. "That company is a walking lawsuit." "They're leveraged," Jordan added. "Thin margins, no cash cushion." "Perfect," I replied. He raised a brow. "You're not going to stop it?" "No," I said. "I'm going to let him sign the check, then yank the rug out from under him." Jordan grinned, slow and sharp. "God, your father really underestimated you." "No," I said. "He underestimated what I learned from him." Natalie Herrera, the co-founder of Verita Tech, wasn't someone I'd called in years, but she remembered me. "You're the one who saved that panel in New York," she said, when we got on Zoom. "The one where that crypto bro tried to explain blockchain to me." "That was me," I laughed. We didn't talk deal points first. We talked values, leadership, ethics, burnout. Then I told her what I was building, and she said 2 words that set the next domino in motion. "I'm listening." Within a week, Verita Tech announced a partnership with Reynard Capital, not Collins & Co. though. The press went crazy. TechCrunch, Forbes, Bloomberg. Wharton Women disrupt old-school capital. New fund beats Collins & Co. to market. It wasn't just a deal. It was a message. And Chase? He found out the same way the rest of the world did, on Twitter. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 6:13 a.m. Dad, again. I answered on the third ring. "You did this," he said, voice tight. "You're going to have to be more specific," I replied, brushing my teeth. "Verita was our deal." "No, it wasn't. It was your idea of a deal. There's a difference. You stole it out from under us. I gave them a better offer, a better vision." He went quiet. Then, "This isn't over, Avery." I laughed. "Of course it's not. You haven't even seen the next move yet." Back at Reynard Capital, we were growing fast. The team worked out of a temporary office on East Moorhead Street. Small, modular, no art on the walls. But it was electric. Every desk was occupied. Every voice mattered. No politics, no dynasties, just results. Samantha Reyes came in full-time, heading compliance and internal governance. She brought 3 team members with her, one of whom had been poached directly from Chase's new risk committee. I didn't ask how. She just said, "They know where the real future is." By mid-month, we had secured our Series A, $180 million in initial capital from a coalition of investors Jordan helped line up. Not because they hated Collins & Co., but because they loved winners. And I wasn't just building a firm, I was building an ecosystem. Inside Collins & Co., the narrative was shifting. I didn't have to spy. I knew the pattern. Rumors spread. Meetings were missed. Slack threads got quiet. People left earlier and earlier. Tyler texted me. "Emergency board meeting this morning. Chase blamed internal sabotage. You're officially Voldemort now." I responded with a skull emoji. Then came the message I was waiting for. Wellsbridge Partners pulled their capital. 90 Malmella's gone. Chase is panicking. Boom, one domino. The others were waiting. The next day, I opened my inbox to a short, pointed email from a name I hadn't seen in years. Stuart Dorsey, Managing Partner, Wellsbridge. Subject, Transitioning Funds. Avery. "We've decided to move all capital management under Reynard. We trust you know what to do." I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I wrote back 2 words. "Welcome home." At night, I stood in my home office, staring at the only personal item I'd kept from Collins & Co. A photo of me at age 22, shaking hands with my father on the day I was named VP. Back then, I thought legacy meant something. Now, legacy was just another word for what I refused to inherit. And just as I closed the notebook for the night, another text lit up my screen. "Samantha, Chase just shredded the last audit file. Legal's sweating. Board is starting to question his leadership. Want me to leak it?" I stared at the message, then typed, "Let them fall." The thing about collapse is, it doesn't always announce itself with sirens. Sometimes it whispers. It begins with a glitch in a spreadsheet, a missing signature, an unanswered email from a nervous investor. And then one by one, the dominoes fall. Slow at first, then all at once. By the end of March, Collins & Company was bleeding out, and I was watching every drop. The Veritech deal had been the first blow, but it wasn't the knockout. That came when Wellsbridge Partners, our second largest client and a longtime loyalist of my father, officially announced their departure. Not privately, not in some email hidden behind NDAs. No, they posted the statement on their LinkedIn company page. In light of recent leadership changes and strategic misalignment, Wellsbridge Partners will no longer be partnering with Collins & Company Capital. We've redirected our investment strategy to firms aligned with long-term impact, innovation, and leadership transparency, including Reynard Capital. No spin, no ambiguity, just truth. And the market heard it loud and clear. I received a voicemail from Chase that day, slurred, panicked. "Avery, what the hell did you do? You think this is funny? You're killing us." I didn't respond. He'd already done the damage. I was just holding the mirror. Inside Collins & Company, the fallout was instant. Executives began jumping ship. Quietly at first. Resignation letters slipped under doors, emails scheduled for 6 a.m., desks cleaned out overnight. Within a week, 6 department heads had vanished, including finance, strategy, and compliance. Samantha texted me. "I just watched Chase scream at legal over a missing fund disclosure, called it a paperwork glitch. Investors were in the room." That wasn't a glitch. That was negligence. And the SEC, they don't like negligence. By the second week of April, Forbes picked up the story. Collins & Co. faces internal crisis. Amid executive exodus, major clients defecting to competitor Reynard Capital. Sources say internal audit inconsistencies and leadership turmoil may lead to regulatory intervention. It wasn't just business anymore. It was a spectacle. And Chase? He was spiraling. I got the second call from my father that Sunday night. This time, he didn't sound angry. He sounded tired. "Avery," he said, "we need to talk." "You said that last time. I didn't know it was this bad." "No," I said. "You just didn't want to see it." There was a long pause on the line. "Chase is drowning. The board's turning on him. Some are threatening legal action. And investors? God, they're calling me nonstop." I didn't say anything. He kept going. "I made a mistake." I almost laughed. "Mistake? Dad, you made a choice. You didn't just overlook me. You erased me. And now you want me to fix what your golden sun shattered?" His voice broke just slightly. "I'm not asking for you to fix it all. I just need a meeting. One. With both of you." I should have said no, but a part of me, a small echoing part, wanted to see it. The crash, with my own eyes. We met the next morning in the same boardroom where I had once been celebrated with champagne and applause. The firm's 10-year gala. A moment that had once made me feel immortal. Now, the chairs were empty. The lights flickered. The air felt stale. My father sat at the head of the table, slumped, not in posture, but in presence. Chase was beside him, pale and angry. He didn't even look at me. "Thank you for coming," my father said. I stayed silent. Chase spoke next. "We need you to help restructure. We can't do this without you." That's the part that almost made me laugh. "Now you realize that?" I asked, folding my arms. "We'll give you equity," Chase added quickly. "A title, a seat on the board." I looked at him dead in the eyes. "I already have all of those, at my own firm, built from the ground up, without your name." My father sighed. "Then what do you want?" I stood up. "I want you both to feel what I felt, not for revenge, but for education." Chase blinked. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means this isn't a negotiation," I said. "It's a eulogy." And I walked out. I didn't look back. That week, 3 more clients pulled their funds, and then came the real death blow. Martech Fusion, a $300 million account that had anchored Collins & Co.'s East Coast division for 7 years, walked away. The reason? They didn't even issue a formal statement. They called me. "Avery," the CFO said, "we've been watching everything, and frankly, we only stayed because of you. Your father made a catastrophic mistake." I said nothing. "You have a new fund, don't you? Focused on digital infrastructure?" "I do. We'd like to move forward, quietly." By May, the bankruptcy rumors weren't just rumors, they were headlines. Collins & Co. teeters on the edge, mass exodus, SEC scrutiny, client walkouts. From empire to embers. How nepotism killed one of Charlotte's most respected investment firms. Every article painted Chase as the symbol of collapse. And me? The phoenix in the background. I never gloated publicly, never tweeted, never leaked statements. But I did pour a glass of champagne the night the filing went live. Not because I celebrated their fall, but because I celebrated my rise, the freedom, the clarity, the end of something toxic. The third and final visit came in late June. My assistant knocked on my office door. "Miss Collins, your father's here. Should I tell him you're unavailable?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Let him in." He walked in slowly, not like a CEO, not even like a father, like a man who had finally seen the mirror. "You really did it," he said softly. I didn't smile. I didn't move. "I didn't do anything you didn't teach me," I said. "You raised me to be ruthless, precise, focused." He nodded. "I just never thought I'd be the target." "That's the problem," I said. "You thought I was the tool, not the weapon." He looked around the office, modern, efficient, alive with energy. Our firm, Reynard Capital, now had more clients than Collins & Company had at its peak. He placed something on my desk, a photo of me at 23, standing beside him at the firm's anniversary gala. I barely glanced at it. "Keep it," I said. "I don't want revenge," he whispered. Then it's a good thing, I replied, because you won't find any. He left without another word, and that was the last time I saw him. That night, I stayed in my office late, watching the Charlotte skyline. The name Collins & Co. had been removed from their former tower, replaced by nothing, just blank stone where the letters used to be. Some would call that sad. I called it symmetry, because from that emptiness I had built something real, and I had done it without them. They say revenge is sweet, but that's not the whole truth. Revenge is loud, messy, addictive. Success, though? Success is quiet, controlled, and final. It's the moment you stop looking over your shoulder because the past no longer deserves your attention. It's the moment I stopped being Avery Collins, daughter of Richard Collins, and became Avery Collins, CEO of Reynard Capital, a name that didn't need an inheritance to command the room. It's been 8 months since Collins & Company officially filed for bankruptcy. 8 months since their logo was stripped from the skyline. 8 months since Chase disappeared from every industry headline he once chased like a spotlight. 8 months since the man who built me finally acknowledged that I didn't need him to build anything. And in those 8 months, I've never looked back. The birth of a real company. Reynard Capital started small. 10 people, 2 laptops, 1 rented WeWork space that smelled like burnt coffee and failed crypto startups. Now, we've got 63 full-time employees, 2 international branches, London and Singapore, and a portfolio that stretches across 4 sectors and 11 countries. We don't chase headlines. We create change. Our specialty? Surgical investments in education infrastructure, sustainable logistics, healthcare innovation, and digital equity. Boring, they said. Slow growth, they warned. And yet, we're outperforming every single fund in our tier by 19%. Because I didn't build this firm for drama. I built it for impact. The culture I was denied. The first thing I did as CEO, I abolished title worship. No corner office wars. No managing partner vanity plates. At Reynard, everyone's voice is heard at the table. Not because it's a trendy HR pitch, but because I remember exactly what it felt like to be the smartest person in the room and still be ignored. We implemented rotating leadership panels where associates lead quarterly strategy briefings. We set up anonymous suggestion pipelines. Not because I need validation, but because power shouldn't silence people. We built transparency dashboards for compensation, promotions, and bonuses. And yes, our executive team is 68% female. Not because we're checking boxes, but because when you stop playing the old game, better players show up. The unseen sacrifice. People see the headlines now and think I had it easy. A sharp daughter, scorned, rises from the ashes, built a better firm, gets a standing ovation. They don't see the 14-hour days, the panic attacks in silence, the moments I cried in my car, wondering if I'd burned too many bridges, if I'd gone too far, if I'd become too much like him. But then I'd walk into my office and see Samantha arguing passionately about regulatory reform, or Malik onboarding our 30th client of the year with tears in his eyes, or Rachel pitching a new AI fund at 8 a.m. sharp like it was her life on the line. And I'd remember why I did it. Because I wasn't building a palace. I was building a sanctuary. The forum that changed everything. 2 months ago, I stood on a stage at the Women in Finance Global Forum in New York. My first keynote. Hundreds of executives, dozens of cameras, years of history staring me down. My palms sweated through my blazer sleeves. My voice trembled on the first sentence. But then I saw her, an intern in the 3rd row, maybe 23. Notebook in hand, eyes wide, absorbing every word like it mattered more than lunch. And suddenly, the nerves vanished. I spoke about power. Not the kind passed through inheritance or stock options. The kind you claim when you decide that being overlooked was your final lesson in obedience. I ended with this. You don't need their seat at the table. You can build a new table. And trust me, once you do, they'll be begging for a chair. The applause was thunderous, but it was that intern who mattered most. Afterward, she ran up to me with tears in her eyes. "You gave me permission," she whispered. Not just to lead, but to leave the places that won't let me. I didn't cry, but something inside me healed. An unexpected envelope. A week later, a Navy envelope landed on my desk. No return address. Just my name in delicate silver embossing. I recognized the handwriting instantly. My father's. I let it sit unopened for 3 days. I stared at it between meetings, wondering if it was another manipulation, a final jab, or maybe an apology dressed in defense. When I opened it, it was short. Avery, I watched your keynote. I read your interviews. I've seen your firm rise. You didn't just build a company, you built conviction, something I never had the courage to give you. I was wrong. About Chase, about you, about everything. You were always going to be better than me. I hope you keep building. Dad, I didn't cry, but I didn't throw it away either. I placed it in the back of my notebook, not for memory, but for closure. The last name that didn't matter. Chase never reached out. Last I heard, he moved to Florida, working for a boutique VC firm doing seed rounds for cannabis startups and crypto NFT nonsense. Maybe he's content. Maybe he's bitter. I don't care. Because the truth is, we were never enemies. He was just a placeholder for a larger failure. The assumption that pedigree outranks performance. He inherited a name, I built one. A walk past the past. Last week, I walked past the old Collins & Cumbie headquarters. The signage had been stripped. The building was on lease. Empty glass windows reflected the city I now called mine, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel anger or grief. I felt peace. Because now, the skyline didn't remind me of what I lost. It reminded me of what I claimed. The real win. This was never just a story about revenge. This was a story about rediscovery, about shedding the labels you were handed and carving your own title, one etched in results, not entitlement. It was about knowing your value, even when the people who raised you don't. It was about rewriting legacy, one decision, one refusal, one breath at a time. And when people ask me now, was it worth it? I smile, not because I won, but because I walked away and never needed to look back. I didn't rebuild Collins & Co. I replaced it with clarity, with purpose, with impact. And that's everything.